Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. I'm so happy that you wanted to join me today because today we are going to talk about weird zero waste habits. The reason why I'm making this video is because I was tagged by my good friend Blue Olice. She has a YouTube channel as well. It's linked down below, so please go and check her out. She makes amazing, sustainable, eco-conscious, ethical content and it's really interesting. So she made this tag where we are going to talk a little bit about our weird zero waste habits or things that we do to be zero waste or sustainable that perhaps might seem odd to some people or perhaps might be gross. Hello. So some of the things she mentioned in her video I do myself, so I'm going to include those as well, but there are also some new things that wasn't mentioned in her video, so I'm really excited to get going. So let's just start with the first weird habit. So the first thing that I do that some people find a little bit weird is that I have a little jar in my bathroom which is filled with small soap scraps. Because you know the feeling, I'm only using solid soap, solid conditioner, shampoos, every kind of soap that I have in my house is a solid soap form. And at some point you have used so much of the soap that it's just a tiny little thing and it's not really very handy or practical to use anymore. And when it reaches that point, I save it in this jar, and when I have enough soap scraps, I will boil them down in a double boiler and I will make a new piece of soap that I can then use for miscellaneous tasks. So that's a really neat way of making sure that you use every piece of your soap, and also it's a free soap bar all of a sudden, which is pretty neat. I don't know if any of you guys are doing this as well. I actually have a blog post on my blog where I am talking about how I do it and the details and whatnot. And of course I have left that in the description as well. Feel very free to tell me in the comments if there are any weird habits that you have or any of the things that I'm mentioning that you do as well. I'm really curious to see what kind of habits or hacks or tips that you guys have or that you guys recognize in order to stay zero waste. I think this is really interesting. So let's get on to weird habit number 2. Okay, so another thing that I do is related to water. Actually, I have a lot of weird habits when it comes to water and saving water and not just using it like nothing matters. Water is a really valuable resource, and even though it seems like we have infinite amounts of it, we really don't. So I make sure to reuse my water as good as I can. For instance, if I'm at a restaurant and I'm ordering just normal water, I usually am, I will have my reusable water bottle with me, and if I cannot drink all the water, I'm taking it with me so I can enjoy it on the road or later or at home or whatnot. If I have water that has gone stale, usually I have a glass of water by my bed if I get thirsty during the night. And during the night that water will sometimes get stale and have this little weird taste to it. I think the reason why water tastes a bit weird when it has been standing outside for quite some time is because the chloride that's in water, there's like 0.02% chloride in normal tap water usually, and that evaporates into the air, so the water that you're drinking when it's stale actually is cleaner than before, but we are so used to the taste of water with chloride in it that it tastes weird. I think that's something I read somewhere, but again, correct me if I'm totally wrong. But that kind of water I really don't want to drink because yeah, it's a little icky tasting, so I use that to water my plants instead of throwing it down the drain. It's a really easy thing to do, but that's something that I've become very conscious of that I do to save water. Also, smoothie time. What was that? Okay, this one might seem a little bit gross to some people, but it's something that I do and I stand completely by it. For now, I reuse my dental floss for as long as I can until it breaks. I have a biodegradable, sustainable alternative to normal plastic-based dental floss, and I use the same piece. I just rinse it off every time I've used it, and I'm just lying it there in my bathroom so I can see where it is. And I use that piece until it breaks. Because even though it's biodegradable and sustainable and yada yada, it's still better to use something tons of times rather than just discarding it after one use if it has multiple uses in it. You feel where I'm going. So even though it might seem a little bit gross to some people, this is something that I do. Of course, I try to rinse it off as good as I can, and so far I haven't had any complaints from my dentist or I haven't had any aches or anything, so I think I will live. And it's a really nice thing to do, also because sustainable dental floss are really expensive, I feel like. This one is something that I've talked about so many times on this channel, but I feel like it deserves an honorable mention in this weird sustainable zero waste habits. I definitely feel like this is something I need to mention. Whenever I am using citrus, orange, lemon, lime. I use the peels to make my own cleaning agent. I will also leave a blog post down below for more information. I take the peels, I pour vinegar on top, and I let it stand in my windowsill for 2 weeks, and then I have a perfect cleaning agent. I've been using this cleaning agent for years. I've always seen comments regarding this cleaning agent that, ew, doesn't that get sticky, or that doesn't clean the bacteria? This is like an old hack, like a 100-year-old hack, and people still use it today. Many places. My grandmother knew about this because she used to do it. It's not sticky at all. So even though it smells like vinegar right when you're using it, that smell will disappear completely. And citrus peels have so many cool qualities in them, and they're also antibacterial. So I think that's pretty dope. Also because I dumpster dive, and when I find oranges in the dumpster, and that's usually all the time, I go home and I make orange juice, and I love that. And then I can also use the peels. It's just a win-win-win-win-win-win. Okay, so recently I also started making my own nut milks because I dumpster dived. I dumpster dived so many nuts. I also posted that in a video actually, because I made like a dumpster diving vlog. Also leave that down below, cool. But I found like kilos and kilos and kilos of all kinds of nuts. So I've been slowly eating my way through all of these nuts. That's what she said. I'm sorry. And a great way of doing so is by using them to make nut milk. Then I can also avoid the packaged nut milks, which usually come in either plastic or Tetra Pak, which I am not there for. But when I'm making my own nut milk, usually there is like this pulp left, like the nut meat. Pulp? What is it called? Tell me down below what it's called. Like the nut pulp. And instead of discarding that, you can actually use this in tons of different recipes. I find that it's super good in pancakes, so I just save it in my freezer and I use it whenever I have to bake something. And there are many upsides to saving stuff like this. First of all, you don't have to throw something out, which is nice, and also there are tons of nutrients and really good stuff in these nuts and also in the nut pulp. So discarding that would also be robbing yourself of a lot of nutrients, which I feel would be too bad. So this is something that you can consider doing. I like it, and it works great in pancakes. Like, the last thing that I do, and something that I've seen a lot of people be really skeptical about, I think it was also mentioned in Blue's video, so hello, I am representing, I'm also doing this. I have tons of clothes that I don't want to wash, either because of the material or the fit. I don't want to overwash them and wash them all the time, because that will slowly just break the clothes apart, especially like with jumpers and stuff like that. I don't want to do that. So if I have something that's not dirty per se, but perhaps it's just smelly for one reason or other, but doesn't have any stains on it, I will put it in my freezer, and that will kill the smell. It's a really cool hack. It works great on jumpers. Sometimes I get it out of the freezer, it still smells, and then I will throw it in the wash. But a lot of the times it actually kills the smell off completely, which is pretty cool. And it's a good way of taking care of your clothes, because yeah, again, overwashing something can break it apart and can ruin the shape of it, the material, it can shrink it, everything can happen. Everything can happen. I don't sound like one that's super confident when it comes to laundry. I'm not. Jens does it all the time, so I should have just leave my laundry with him. But that's another thing that I do, something that I've always done, and I don't know who told me about it, but I've been doing it for years and years and years. Another thing, Blue talked about doing this as well, but whenever I'm brushing my hair, instead of throwing my hair in the bin or in my compost, I just leave it outside. Instead of like roll it up into a little ball, and then I put it outside my window, because first of all, hair degrades quite easily, but there's also the notion that a lot of birds are using it in their nest making. So yeah, I just toss it outside. If I have plants with like small dead leaves or something on it, I'll also just toss them outside. I mean, okay, so yeah, it's super typical. When I stopped filming, I started remembering tons of other things that I really wanted to mention as well. Also, my hair is super gross, so we are in a hoodie kind of situation. But I just wanted to mention these things as well. The video is not over. It will keep coming. Okay, so one of the things that I've been talking about a lot in my what I eat in a day videos as well, I thought I would mention here as well, because every time I cook something, I save my potato peels, carrot peels, broccoli stems, onion peels, all these kinds of things, and I save them in a jar that I put in my freezer. And when I have to make either gravy or soup or something like that, I will take this out of the freezer and into some water, and then I will have it simmering on very low heat for a couple of hours, and then I have a perfect zero waste veggie stock, and I love this one to bits. It's super easy to make, and if you sort of separate things a little bit, you can also use broccoli stems and stuff like that in soups if you just blend it really well. Otherwise you're getting like this really rich broth that you can use a couple of teaspoons or cups of, depending on how much you're making. So yeah, every time I cook I have this jar where I put stuff in, and people are always looking at me like, what are you doing? Oh, I'm saving it for broth. Zero waste equals resourcefulness. Yes. So this is probably like super weird, but if I am going out traveling, I will call up the hotel in advance and tell them that I don't want any of their products, like toothbrush, sewing kits, shampoo, conditioner, stuff like that, and those small travel packets, simply just to avoid the plastic. I heard that even though you're not using it, they are still discarded after you leave, because they cannot be sure if you're spitting in the shampoo or what you're doing. So they're still discarding it if it was in the room. So I try to do my best to call up before and say, oh, don't mind, I don't want it. And then I have done everything I can to avoid that kind of travel related waste. In terms of being an annoying customer and trying to avoid stuff, if I'm ordering a drink, I have this habit of saying, oh, no straw please, and then specifying my drink order, because then I have experienced that a lot of waiters are more likely to remember the no straw thing if it's the first thing that they hear, and not gin and tonic and then with no straw, because then their mind's already like, oh, gin and tonic, and then they're just going on from there. Now the sun is just right in my face. Another thing that I have a habit of trying to avoid is napkins. Although napkins are made of paper and not really a plastic item, I still consider disposable napkins unsustainable, simply for the sheer fact that it is a disposable single-use item that you can easily avoid by using a reusable napkin that you wash. Yay! So I either say that, oh, I don't need a napkin, that's fine, for instance if I'm ordering takeout, or if I'm offered a napkin, but if it's already at the table, I will take the napkin with me and I will compost it, because napkins, when they have been in touch with food, cannot go into paper recycling. Then I always travel with my zero waste kit. I've made a habit out of always having some kind of cutlery with me, some kind of plate, or some kind of a drinking device or a cup. When I'm at a party, I'll always bring my own glass no matter what, because sometimes I am happily surprised to see that everything is in reusable containers, but sometimes you get surprised in the not so cute way, and therefore it's just nice to always in your bag have a glass or something. So I always bring my zero waste kit whenever I'm leaving, and as a result of that, I can never bring like a cute tiny bag with my outfit. I have to carry like this insanely huge bag, because I really want to make sure that I'm not using any disposables. Does that sound tedious? Yes. Is it? No, not really, because once a habit becomes routine, it sort of stops being annoying, I feel like, so that's not a problem at all for me. That's just something that I do now and everything is fine. So these were some of the other mentions that I really wanted to get in here as well, simply because they're a little bit more everyday kind of, but also they are the things that I do on a regular basis, and yeah. Thank you so much. This was all for like greasy hair G out. So these were my small weird habits. Tell me know down below if they were weird or if they were just like normal zero waste living. I don't know. And let me know if you have any habits that people have found like kind of odd or weird. I would love to know as well. I hope that you enjoyed this video and that you will continue to watch my other videos. And if you're like a real champ, you will also subscribe to my channel. That would make my day. See you guys in my next video, and take really good care of yourselves. Until then, stay safe. Love ya. Bye.
Thank you so much for watching this video, and also a special thank you to my Patreon supporters. You guys help me create green zero waste content, and I love you guys. You can find the links to my social media accounts down below and the link to my Patreon on this screen. Bye!